If we look at Mishal, therefore Mishal, the daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. Is that correct? Right? The same Mishal, when you go in the same chapter, in the 5 sons of Mishal, the daughter of Saul.
Now, you have a lot of people who would just say simply this was a scribal error. It meant to say Saul's other daughter, Mirab, because the man that is spoken about there is her sister's husband, not hers. Now, there's another way to look at this as well, which I'll talk about in an additional clip later on.
How can a woman have no children to the day of her death and have 5 sons?
Handmaid.
See, it's funny, like, I don't think she's presenting some good responses for a lot of these questions.
No. Handmaids, those are not her children.
And I don't think he's ready for it.
Abraham.
You see, like, you see, and this is telling, because it shows you he's not ready for those sorts of responses. When she's like, well, she could be a handmaid, which is one of the arguments people make about Saul's daughter Michal and the 5 children. And just to be clear, the argument I'm talking about here that scholars make and other people make about this situation is not that she was a surrogate or anything along those lines. The argument that people typically give is her sister had those children, those 5 children, and she is now looking after those children. In the previous passage, which Uthman read, in that passage, the person who's married to that man is her sister. So one example could be that her older sister died and now she's looking after the children, etc. People who actually read and study the Bible know answers like this. Not somebody like Uthman who's just most likely looking on websites and trying to find contradictions and then coming to present them to people. But anyway, back to the video. He's not ready for that. And she's even compounded it, saying, well, look at this example with Abraham and Sarah and the handmaidens. They were going to have a child, a surrogate child as we'd call it today, and that child was going to be called Sarah's child. But he's so used to, like, the script. We just call it the Dower script. He doesn't. He's just rejecting it.
Jacob's wives. They had handmaids and they called them their children.
Were they born from Jacob's sperm?
They didn't have to be. That's the point she's making.
Yes.
Then those are their children. But how can a woman have no children?
See, notice what he just said, right? If Jacob had 4 wives in the Bible, right? Her point was, there's examples in the Bible where a man will have a child, let's say like a surrogate child. Jacob has a child with one of his concubines, and Rachel, the wife he loves, is like, okay, yes, you're going to have a child with me and it's going to be my child. That's the point he's making. He's now flipped it to, are they Jacob's natural children? As if that's the point. That wasn't the point. At least that's not what I heard the point was. The point is someone who has a child who is not the biological parent, but is being called the parent of that child, etc.
Children, not the father, the woman, and have 5 children.
The handmaid. The wives called them their children.
And notice he can't deal with it. Repeating something or trying to go deep into an explanation when I clearly understand what he's saying. She clearly understands what he's saying, but he cannot deal with what she's saying. So he doesn't know where to go.
They did, just like Sarah was going to. And then later she rejected him after.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Isaiah was 22 years old when he became king and reigned 1